Yeah.
Sairam, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are, sir. Yes, you are audible. Clear. Yeah. So, Sairam, we will begin with invoking Bhagwan's blessings for the days of today's session. Om. Om Shri Sairam. Our collective prayers at the divine lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan. Sairam, very loving Sairam to every one of you who's present here on the call today, brothers and sisters. Sairam to you, Kameshwar Rao sir. So we are really happy to have you here with us. To set the ball rolling, I'll just take you through the very purpose of organizing a call with you, sir. So, brothers and sisters, we've been creating content and we've come a long way. And as a part of this content creation, we walked on the 7 asset methodology, and we wanted to empower the teachers through this methodology. We also wanted to create a IIEP experience for all our students and every one of the stakeholder who's there in the education system. So in the process, we've come a long way, but in the light of the current NEP 2020 and the National Curriculum Framework, which will follow suit and emerge in a short period of time, we wanted to see how much more alignment is necessary and whether we will be able to create content on lines with to deliver what is expected, what the NCF expects out of the school community. So going forward, what will the focus of content creators be? We already have a day-to-day relevance as an asset, wherein we try to bring in practical relevance to the students. We have suggested activity wherein hands-on learning is emphasized upon. We want to bring in greater conceptual clarity through the main script asset that we have there. The value has to be seamlessly built in, which is built through our value content asset. So all these are expectations, and we seem to have thought it through, and all that has come in here. But can we in any way make these deliverable more impactful, more effective, and simple at the same time, very practical? So towards that, in that direction, how should we go forward? So to address that, we have Bhagwan has brought us the best resource that we can think of, Dr. Kameshwar Rao, who's there here with us today. A very warm welcome to you, sir, and we are really looking forward to this session and very, very happy to have you. So I'm going to request my colleague, Sister Sri Jayanti, to introduce the guest speaker of the day before we take the session forward, sir. So a warm welcome from all of us one more time. Over to you, Shri Jayanti.
Thank you. Sairam, sir. Sairam to everyone. Pranams at Swami's Divine Lotus Feet, and as always, prayers to guide us and bless us through our journey. Sir, it is my honor and privilege to introduce a person like Dr. Kameshwar Rao to all of you. He is a person with stellar academic and professional achievements. So just for us to know what he has been, I will just share a few things about him. He has graduated from the Regional College of Education, NCRT, Bhubaneswar, and has gone on to do his PhD in mathematics. Then he's worked for about more than 4 decades in NCRT. NCRT is a word which we are commonly referring to every now and then, right? So we have a person right from there. And then he's associated with teaching and research in mathematics and mathematics education. He has been the member of a national focus group for NCF 2005 on teaching of mathematics. Not only that, he's also been closely connected with writing of NCRT mathematics textbooks and also teacher training across the nation. And he's worked mostly at Bhubaneswar, Mysore, and Bhopal. And further to that, he has worked as a consultant for American Institutes for Research in the capacity building of states in assessment. He's also associated with the state of Kerala in nurturing mathematics talent and community maths lab program. And there is a program called the Nishta program from the Ministry of Education, which is connected to, empowering the heads of his schools and teachers. So he has been a national expert in mathematics for the Nishta program. Also, he's been associated with the review and finalization of modules for literacy and numeracy under adult education. And he still continues to serve the country by his association with the Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas academic programs and also the Nishta program. So, sir, it is really our privilege to have you here and listen to you on the session. Thank you so much for giving your time, and the session is over to you now, sir. You can take on. Thank you.
Sir, you have to unmute. I think you're muted. Yeah, you're still muted, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sairam. At the outset, I would like to thank you all for giving me this opportunity to interact with you. Maybe a few minutes I would spend on the NEP. Are you all able to listen to me?
Sir, your voice is very clear, sir.
Yes, yes.
Yes, very clear. No issues.
The NEP 2020, we have certain principles laid down, basing on which the entire school curriculum will be framed, syllabus, textbooks, teacher training, teachers' handbooks. These are all put in a sequence. And as of now, different states are advised to develop their own curriculum framework for schools. And it's different from what we did in 2005. 2005, there was a national curriculum framework, which was done at the center, in fact, in the NCRT. But now the responsibility is given to the respective states to formulate with the guidelines of the NEP 2020. I'm just going through some of them. There is a structural change. There is a structural change, and a lot of deliberations took place for arriving at this structure. We didn't have that preschool, nursery, and all those earlier. But then parents being very curious that children should go to school and all, then a lot of deliberations took place, and then ultimately the structure is as you see it now. The main principles underlying the would-be curriculum framework is based on making India a knowledge hub. Knowledge. So we need to make global children for the entire world, not just for our country. See, usually how knowledge evolved. It passed from one person to another through various ways, where there was knowledge acquisition. Students used to come to school to gain knowledge. Teacher was supposed to give and students were supposed to take. In the last curriculum framework, we initiated knowledge construction, that we are not going to gather knowledge, we are going to create knowledge. Now, that is the basic idea. So as long as you don't create, you are simply trying to acquire. Acquisition is not our core. Creating knowledge. So knowledge construction is the main thing. Now, see, in the vision or in the principles, we have a lot of things where the topmost idea is recognizing, identifying, and fostering the unique capabilities of each child. Every child is unique. We don't want a particular thing to be taught to everyone, whether the child likes it or not. So here, the teacher has a greater role. Parents have a role in sensitizing this particular issue to identify what are the capabilities of the child and accordingly nurture the talents. So that is given topmost priority. You may ask now, how do you do this? Well, when we talk to the content developers, we'll try to find out how we can go there. There is no hard separation between arts and science, between curricular and extracurricular activities, between vocational and academic streams, in order to eliminate harmful hierarchies among and silos between different areas of learning. Multidisciplinarity and holistic education across the sciences, social sciences, arts, humanities, and sports for multidisciplinary world in order to ensure the unity and integrity of all knowledge. Emphasis on conceptual understanding rather than rote learning and learning for exams. Now, this is what is happening now. Learning for marks, learning for the exams. So this has to be discontinued. That should not happen. So the emphasis must be on concept understanding. Now, there are various teaching models. One of them is, one of the very important models is concept attainment model. How a concept can be attained. Now, teachers have to look into this. This is available, and then this is very much necessary for concept understanding. Not just by rote learning, but understanding the concept. That is more important. Then we have creativity and critical thinking to ensure, to encourage logical decision making and innovation. This has been there, but then we were not really trying to encourage this. Now, this policy is emphasizing on this. Ethics and human and constitutional values like empathy, respect for others, cleanliness, courtesy, democratic spirit. Now, whatever is mentioned in this, they are there in your success Vidyavarni's assets. It is there. These values are there. In fact, we have a little more. Life skill, such as communication, cooperation, teamwork, and resilience. Focus on regular formative assessment for learning rather than summative assessment that encourages students' coaching culture. Extensive use of technology in teaching and learning, removing language barriers, increasing access for Divyang students, and educational planning and management. Respect for diversity and respect for the local context in all curriculum, pedagogy, and policy. Synergy in curriculum across all levels of education. Teacher and faculty as the heart of learning process. and outstanding research. Rootedness and pride in India. Education is a public service. Access to equality education must be considered a basic right of every child. Now, these are some of the principles based on which the NEP is formulated. Now, what as content writers, content developers, and people in education in this kind of system can do for this? Now, to begin with, when I seek to develop content, I must know whom it is addressed. Is the content I am developing addressed to the student or to the teacher? If it is addressed to the teacher, the style will differ. If it is addressed to the student, you need a different style. Particularly when you talk about the language that you use. The language, if you are writing the content for the children, for the student or the learner, the language must be as simple as possible, and the vocabulary must be in the reach of the child. Certain words child may not know. If I am developing a content in social science, I must know my limitations. What are the words that I can use? Whether the child has learned these words in the language, be it the mother tongue or English or whatever language they are learning, whatever may be the medium of instruction. So, while deciding about that, if we are writing the content for the children, certain things like I teach, commanding language should be avoided. Along with these, I said, I have taught you. I should not be used. I should be replaced by we. Let us do it. Let us learn it. Let us explore it. Let us think about it. Let us study. The flow must be that the writer, whosoever is addressing the child, would be moving with the child. So that is what I meant by it is important to know whom it is addressed. Next is, does the content supplement the text? Or are we making same content again here? We should try to avoid such repetition. If it is already available, that should not find a place, because we are not just copying and pasting it. So if you are developing a content which will supplement or which will help them to understand the concept better, one must think, can it make a difference? Can it make a difference, be it in teaching or in learning? That question must be asked. How is it different? What kind of difference it can make? Next, art, sports, culture, values, etc. must be integrated. Are they integrated in the content? One may think how art can be included, how can it be integrated with mathematics, how art can be integrated with language. Now, because it was not there earlier, doesn't mean that it cannot be there. It cannot be there. It can be there. It has to be in fact there. It has to be there. Maybe I will elaborate when I speak to the mathematics specific content writers. Then, is a context or a situation created to transact? In the sense, when a concept is to be developed, am I creating a context relevant to that? Is the context familiar to the child? Is it relevant? Because learning takes place faster if it is relevant. If it is not relevant, learning will not take place that fast. So, context creation is the most important aspect when you try to create some content. It means one should put a question, why I should create this particular concept? What is the need? Why a child should learn this? What is the actual motivation for this? Can I create a context wherein a child would feel the need to create new concept? There is a need to create a kind of probing questions in its mind, would create necessity of knowing more. So concept creation is most important. In the constructivist approach, which we have been advocating, but still it has not reached the classrooms in all the schools in India. We talk about the 5E model, 5E model, where the first thing we try to do is to engage the child. Now, if you want to engage the child, there must be a challenge for the child to think about. So the teacher has to create a context wherein children see a challenge. So they are engaged. They will explore, they will examine, they will elaborate, and they will explain. At every stage, they will be evaluating it. Now, that is how the learning would take place. And there, the teacher is just a facilitator. I was speaking to some teachers. They were saying, sir, this is in the syllabus, and therefore it's in the textbook, therefore we have to teach. Why it should be questioned? Well, You have syllabus, but the child also wants to know why he or she should learn. What is the motivation behind it? So if you can create a context in the 5E model, it is actually experiential learning. Experiential learning. And when the learning is through experience, it stays. So we advocate that construction of knowledge, constructivist approach in a classroom. Therefore, the content must be also developed in order to throw challenge to the learner, that a child has to construct, not just take it from the teacher and then remember it. Um, and once you develop a concept, you develop a context, you need to think about whatever concept is created or whatever knowledge is learned, is it connecting the previous knowledge? Is it linking the previous knowledge? Is it going to link something later? So linking of the concept, in the sense, no child should be understood as coming with blank head. Every child carries with it certain knowledge, certain concepts. Either they are wrongly formed or correctly formed. But the concepts that are to be constructed on that, only the construction process will make them understand whatever they have understood was right or wrong earlier. Next is the content that is being developed, is it aligned with the expected learning outcomes at that level? This is very important. The expected learning outcomes. The government has spelled out the learning outcomes for different stages, different classes earlier. I don't know how far these have reached. But then, so that has to be lived into. Then is the flow of transaction in line with the pace of the learner? Certain things are taught, the same thing is taught at different levels. As they continue to understand the concepts, like say photosynthesis. When it is introduced, all the scientific regions, chemical formulas, they are all not done. They are just mentioned, how it takes place. Only later, as you go higher, children are connected with what is needed. Once they understand, once they come to that level of understanding, bonding, elements, a lot of other things, then they will have a different perspective. So if you talk to the children about the Bayesian structure in class 3 or class 4, wherever you talk about some chemicals, they won't understand. But they will try to connect later. So, is the flow of transaction in line with the pace of the learner? Whether every child is able to follow the speed at which the content is developed, that is very, very important. It's very, very important. If you look at the mathematics books particularly, or mathematics in general, children start learning numbers 1, 2, 3, and so on. The parents are very curious to make them learn up to 100 and force on them the operations on numbers. A stage would come, child would try to hate these numbers and mathematics. So what is done is, let us take numbers only up to 20. Only up to 20. And let us see what all that can be done. What all that can be done. And with these numbers, are they able to identify a particular pattern? Are they able to see some structure? Then we try to see whether this structure can be extended. Can the pattern be repeated? Can they create a pattern on their own? And things like that. So, it should not be very ambitious. The content should not be too much. The clarity is more important. Concept understanding is more important. Take it till the concept settles. Concept is clear. Then there must be a variety of examples as well as non-examples. Non-examples are as important as examples. I was talking to one of you about certain concepts. What is and what is not. Both are important. Both are important. There are exceptional cases in some cases. Those cases must be very clearly dealt with. I'm not going to say that in the content itself, it should be given this is yes and this is no. No. Once the concept is attained, they must be able to decide which one has the required attributes. I will give you a simple example. If someone says, oh, triangle is a three-sided figure. triangle is, if you define a three-sided figure as a triangle, the problem comes. If you say triangle is a three-sided figure, is different from a three-sided figure is a triangle. For example, I will just draw. Can you all see? This has three sides, but this is not a triangle.
Yes.
So it is very important that when we talk about the definition, we must be very clear. In one of the books, at some point, say integers we are talking about. We have already talked about natural numbers and whole numbers. Now, integers are natural numbers, whole numbers, and negative numbers. Instead of that, if I say all negative numbers and whole numbers make integers, there is a difference. You are saying what it contains. You are also saying what it should contain. Children learn fractions much before integers. When you say 2 is an integer, -2 is also an integer, -2 is a negative number, minus half, 1/2 is also a negative number. But unfortunately, this is not an integer. Therefore, while making a statement, one has to be very, very careful. So clarity must be there. Now, to raise such objections, what we normally do is the definitions are not stated at the beginning. Definitions are to be evolved through lots of attributes of the concept. There are certain essential attributes. So through that only the concept has to be developed and the definition is to be arrived at. In a classroom, I would not give the definition to the children. I would only question them. I will have a structured questions. And ultimately, the definition is evolved in the classroom. When you evolve a definition in the classroom, through discussion, every child participates. So the content must be interactive also. This is very, very important. So examples must be there, non-examples must be there, but I would not recommend you should do all those, but they should be in a structured questions form, in a structured way. That would allow children to doubt. See, the best way one can learn is by doubting oneself. So the doubt must be created in the minds of the children, whether what they know is complete or incomplete, or is there anything wanting in that? So the content must be developed in such a way, at some stage, certain attributes are not there, and therefore, for completion, they need to construct. I will give you one important thing here, that definitions are important, but understanding of the concept is more important. Teachers should not insist on asking the children to define it correctly as given in the book or as dictated by the teacher. No. They may be asked to explain the way they understand, express the way they understand. And correction in children, or correction anyone for that matter, takes place not by just saying that you are wrong or this is wrong. Correction takes place by self-contradiction. So the teacher as a facilitator will facilitate for the child to contradict if the answer is wrong, without saying that it is wrong. So at this, I will tell you a small story about definition. One day in the early morning, a farmer was going to his field with a plow on his shoulder, and he found a group of people under a tree near the temple were engaged in very heated discussion. Very heated discussion. They were supposed to be very wise people of the village, learned people. So this farmer, just out of curiosity, asked, "Gentlemen, what are you so seriously discussing and arguing about?" One of them said, "We are trying to define sweet. We want to define sweet." Oh, so we thought, okay, by knowing the definition of the sweet, maybe it will do some good to the village. And he went. In the evening, when he returned, he still found the group of people still engaged in heated discussion. He asked them, "So now what are you discussing about?" They said, "Even now we are thinking about how to define sweet." Then he said, "You have wasted the entire day thinking about sweet." No, we are trying to define. From his lunch box, he took out a piece of jaggery, good. In Telugu, we call it bellam. He took out and then gave to each one of them a small piece each and asked them to eat. And they all ate. And he asked them, "How does it taste, sir?" They all said, "Sweet." Now it is more important to know for me that it is sweet rather than defining it. So it is very important that children understand the concept rather than the definition. Only later stages definition is important. In fact, very much important. it's needed, but only after they understand its importance later. So at the early stages, whenever a concept is introduced, we should not stress for the definition. Rather, we should stress for understanding its attributes. Attributes are more important. There is need for every teacher and every child to read around the subject. Read around the subject. For example, if I'm to teach mathematics, I should know what mathematics can do for me, what mathematics can do to anyone, what is its nature. By knowing the nature of mathematics, I will be able to see the power of mathematics. Similarly, for every subject, every teacher should know the nature of their subject. I need not know how a mobile is made. I need not know. What it can do for me is more important for me. So, for every concept I'm talking about, child will question, why should I learn this? So, when a teacher wants to engage the children, he or she should think, first thing is, why children should learn this? Can I create a context? What is the use of knowing it? Why children should study about data? When children study data and statistics, lot of things for the country can be or are dependent on this knowledge. This knowledge. If they know data handling, they should know data handling, what way it is going to be useful. Not a particular data, but what way it's going to be useful. If they learn mathematics, if they learn probability, how is probability going to help them? Is probability different from possibility? So every subject, children must know, must read around that subject. So we must develop in them this reading habit, reading around that particular subject. Now, what way in the content we can include? What way? There are a lot of stories available, things around available. Okay. Then, is the content, the concept created, the lesson transacted? Is it seen outside the classroom? Can I see that in action outside the classroom? In fact, I would say the concepts must come from outside the classroom into the classroom. In one of the interactions, a teacher asked me, "Sir, how can I introduce the concept of variable and constant in the minds of children of class 6 and 7? See, if we confine ourselves to only the symbols, the operations, only blackboard, work, and book, they will not enjoy. They will not enjoy. They want live examples in the classroom itself. I simply asked him to come to me and look towards the class. And I asked him, how many eyes you have? How many eyes every one of them has? How many hands you have? How many hands they have? When you have come here, you carry a quantity which is constant in every one of us. Here, the number of eyes is constant. Number of hands is constant. Number of legs is constant. Then, sir, variable. I said, what is your age? If you are talking about in terms of years, maybe there are some of them as old as you. If I talk about your height is different from others. Heights vary. If you think about number of hairs, if someone who doesn't have any hair, you have the number of bones you have, the number of cells that you have, your height, the blood pressure, various things that you carry with you, certain things. When you talk about their number, you have variables in you, you have constants in you. You are ever changing in certain things, and you are ever constant. Such easy examples are with us. So, we need not always think of natural numbers and only numbers. Let them have the feel. Then, connecting geometry. Everything that we see has a geometrical reference. Geometrical reference. When a child learns about geometrical figures like triangle, square, rectangle, trapezium, cylinder, all these things. Normally what happens is a teacher will take a model and show this is a cylinder, this is a triangle, this is a pyramid. And he would draw and say it is a triangle, it is a square and things like that. But child would not know why he is learning this on the blackboard. If you simply take the shirt, place it on the table and unstitch it, it contains various shapes. You have a trapezium here. You have a rectangular pocket. You have a cylindrical you have conical shape. If a tailor understands geometry, he would minimize the wastage. He would minimize the wastage. And every garment he creates, he is creating geometrical objects. Geometrical objects. Now, this is experiential learning. Mathematics in action. They will see how to connect. Everything can be connected. Everything you see out, what they say is, nature is highly mathematical. Nature is highly mathematical. Mathematics is there, available in nature. Okay. So, while developing the content, whatever concepts we want to ultimately formulate, there are three levels. One is the concrete level. Concrete in the sense children can see it, feel it. Then they have a representational level, then abstract level. If we try to give the abstraction at the beginning itself, the beauty of the subject is lost. The beauty of the subject is lost. If a child doesn't know the worth of money, the worth of labor, just by asking something this child is provided, would not care to know the worth of it. He would not know how it is got, how one has struggled to get it. So what we want to say is, with familiar to representational, then to abstract. That is very, very necessary. You are not going to talk about the atomic structure in class 6 or class 7, because it's very difficult. It's because they need to imagine. In fact, the teacher, I don't think I have seen. I have graduated. I'm a postgraduate, but then I have not seen the atomic structure. I have to only believe. I have to believe because of various reasons by which I believe, because the knowledge that I have constructed is structured. So construction of structure is very, very important. So maybe when I talk about mathematics, I can give lots of other examples. Um, in the lesson plans or in the content that is developed, I have observed one thing. It is written after the completion of this lesson, students will be able to do this, do this, do this, do this. There is a difference between I am able to do it and I am doing it. Students will be able to solve quadratic equations. It is different from students will solve quadratic equations. I am transacting a lesson with the teachers, not to make them capable of doing something. I want them to do it. I want them to do it. After the completion of my transaction, I expect them to do it. I don't say that they are not capable, even without my saying they are capable of. But whether they are doing it or not, that is more important for me. So in the objectives, instead of saying will be able to, instead of that, I want to say they will do this, they will do that. That is the specific objective. That they will do it. I am appointing someone to do something for me is not that I have to see that he does it. That is more important. That is the ultimate objective. Not being able, no. One may be able, but one doesn't do. That doesn't serve the purpose. We want a child has to do it. He has learned it. He has learned it for the exam, forgotten? No. He has to do it. That is more important. So when we develop the content, our objective is by the end of that lesson, students will do a particular act. They will do. Will be able to do means you are making it a future tense. They will do it means they will now do it. I think I have overspent the time. I want to know a few things from you. I don't know how, how many schools are connected with, where are the schools, and if there are schools nearby, can I go and interact with the children, teachers, and see that I learn, I have a kind of assessment of their needs. I would also like to see what I can do, what my friends can do. I would like to know that. At the same time, if the group is interested, I would connect with those who are engaged in this content development, textbook, teacher training at the national level in other subjects like science, social science, language, so that we can have occasional transactions, so that we will learn from each other. And thank you very much.
Sairam sir, thank you so much for the very valuable input that you have shared with us. In fact, there are a number of points which we are going to take home. And at some point in time, we would definitely like to discuss in greater detail and enable a lot of interaction with you, with our content creators of various subjects. I would request if any brother or sister, if you have any question which can be taken up right away by sir, please post it here. We will try and see if sir can take the question right now. And if it is a little bit delayed, since then we can keep it for the next session, and we will post it and share the response. I would also request Usha Raghavan, my another colleague, to sum up the points that were shared by Kameshwar Rao sir. Of course, sir, your examples stand in my head, right? And it has been there since the first time you shared with us about the variable and the constant and the hair thing, which is not. And you walk from one end to the other end of a classroom and you pick up on such simple. It'll take half a minute to transact. For us to create maybe another 2-minute asset, and we will be able to get across the message, the concept so much more clearly. So thank you for that, sir. Usha, would you like to pitch in, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sairam all. Sairam sir, thank you for the very enlightening session full of insights for our content creators. Sir is a mathematician, but sir could guide all authors across subjects as to how to give the best to the students and teachers. We really needed a guide to help us bring in the various aspects of NEP, and Swami has sent you, sir, at the right time and at the right place. You explained very well the salient features of NEP and how the content creators can bring these aspects into their roles. So some of the points that you explained, I would like to sum up so that we authors remember and put it in our content. Before a content is created, authors must think, for whom is this being created? For students or for teachers? The style should vary accordingly. Language must be very simple and reachable to the students. As far as possible, avoid I, use we. Our content must supplement the textbook and not be the same. Integration of subjects, that is a multidisciplinary approach, must be taken up by us. Sir gave some very good example connecting sports and arts and maths. And another thing, it's very important to set up a context before introducing a concept. We need to give a lot of examples and non-examples. As content creators, we must not give the definition initially, we do it now. We have learned this very important aspect from you, sir. We need to help the teachers construct through structured questions. We need to give scope for active learning. Our content must bring in relevance to whatever is there in the textbook. Sir gave wonderful examples to bring in the relevance to what students learn. The shirt example is very simple but very impactful. Connecting everything around to what students learn. That's very important. And moving from familiar to representation to abstract. That is very important. Sir wants to bring a change in the way we word the objective. We word it as students will be able to. Henceforth, he feels that it should be students will do. That much confidence must be reflected when we create content. And one more thing, it's very gratifying to note certain points which Sir had stressed, the 5E model, learning outcomes, age appropriateness, taking physical objects, that is the familiar objects to the classroom. All these aligns with our 7 assets of Vidyavahini. So we are on the right track. We need a guide, and we have found the right person. Thank you once again, sir, for coming forward to help teachers and students. The next step you want to do to go personally to school, interact with teachers and students, that is really blessings for all of us. Thank you very much, Sai Ram. Yeah.
Thank you, Usha. Very well summarized. So what we will do going forward is match each one of these with, overall, we will take home the entire, all the points that Sir has shared. We will also try to park it against our asset types so that, and circulate it after Sir has a look at them. So that asset-wise, we are able to bring about the necessary modification. Sir, we going forward also look forward for more interactions and guidance and suggestions in our master lesson plans. And we will be organizing sessions with our math content creators and any other group that wants to, any other subject group that requires support from user. Since there is a lot of appreciation for the session as I see here, but no questions so far. So I would consider that the talk here that you shared was given today was so clear, sir, and that clarity we will try and bring in. And there is a there is a training team which is a part of this Satyasai Vidyavahini, sir, and they will connect with you to have you interact with the teachers, the receiver of our content. As far as content is concerned, we will be trying to modify here, and you can definitely visit the schools which are in proximity and interact with the teachers and students the way you think is befitting. Thank you once again. We will close the session with Shanti Mantra.
Somebody raised their hand, no? I saw one raised hand.
Is it?
Yeah.
Hi, Raman. This is Keshav.
Sairam, please go ahead. Sairam, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for a wonderful insight we got. So the multimedia team also would like to interact with you to know more about translating mathematics visually. That aspect we also want to get guidance from you. So I hope we can connect.
Sairam, Keshava, just one small input before Sir's response to you. I think if it is mathematics specific, then when we organize the call for mathematics content creators, at that time the multimedia team, which is linked with mathematics, can join in. And if you think a separate session for multimedia about how to present it to the students and take it forward, if you want a separate session like that, we can request Sir for that also.
Yeah, separate system will be more helpful because if authors are also there, that is good because they will be writing in that manner. The way Sir will advise, similar way the authors can initiate the asset creation process. Yes, the together call will be more beneficial.
Okay. Okay. So if
my number can be shared. my WhatsApp number can be shared. Well, it would be a pleasure, even with one-to-one, I can share and learn from them too.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. I will connect it from Swati ma'am.
So we will close with Shanti Mantra, and we will come back to you, sir. Thank you for the session, and that I am sharing from the entire team, which has put out in the comment section on how useful they found the session, and how clearly you have put out all the points. So thanks for being there, and thanks for being there at all times. You've promised that you're going to be there with us all along, and we look forward to that support. So Shanti Mantra and closure. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Jai Sai Ram. Sai Ram.